right, we're happy to have you. I will only say a few words so we get started and get you out of here on time. But first of all, welcome on behalf of Education and HR. Today we have a great speaker with us. If you haven't heard already, he's doing a dynamic jam-up job. And we kept him busy since 7:30 this morning, so I'm sure he's tired. He's leaving in a few minutes to catch a plane. But anyway, we're happy to have him here with us. His name is Jason Young. He was here several years ago. If you heard him back then, you'll know how great he was. If you didn't, sit back, relax. You're going to enjoy this. But Jason is a former employee of Southwest Airlines. He's had his own company, Lead Smart. He's the president for the past 10 years, so please make him welcome. Thanks, Jason.
Wow, thanks for showing up. She's supposed to keep expectations low, but that's okay. I worked at Southwest Airlines for about 10 years, 88 to 98. During that time, they were ranked #1 in customer satisfaction and employee satisfaction. And so they did some things really well. And I happened to go in 1988, I went out and I was manager of customer service training for 4 years. And then I got the idea I could manage an airport. So I went to Los Angeles and became manager of customer service for LAX. That's a really bad job. Don't take manager of customer service for LAX if you get a chance. And I happened to go in 93, 94. Remember what happened in LA in 93, 94? I mean, we had 3 major distractions that kind of interrupted our service delivery. Anybody remember what happened in 93, 94 in LA? We had the Northridge earthquake. And then, I don't know about you guys, I was born and raised in Dallas. Concrete doesn't do this where I come from, and so that was crazy. We had another distraction. That's right, we had the Rodney King verdict come back. We had the riots. We had to shut down the airport. Some of that riot activity came into the airport area. But the biggest distraction of all, anybody remember? OJ. OJ happened. Do you know how hard it is to get employees out of the break room when they're watching the Bronco go down the 405? Dude, the Bronco. I was like, go to the ticket counter, but they wouldn't go. Anyway, I found out that I'm not an airport manager. I am a trainer. So if this session feels a little bit more like a workshop than it does a speech or whatever, that's probably because it is. I spent the last 4.5 years at Southwest doing programs just like this. I moved back into what we called the University for People, where we did leadership initiatives and customer service initiatives just like this. But I find in the afternoon, it's after lunch, we need to kind of get ourselves revved up a little bit, so I'll just do a little technique a friend of mine named Tony Brigham taught me. It's called a power clap. And what I'm going to do is I'll say 1, 2, 3, power clap. I'm going to bring my hands together. Your job is to bring your hands together at the exact same time. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, power clap. Oh, this is good. Let's see if we can tighten that up just a little bit. Ready? 1, 2, 3, power claps. 2 power claps. 3 power claps. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. Well, let's get this thing going. I do have a PowerPoint up here. I'll try to stay up here so I'm not right on top of you there. I have a PowerPoint. It's going to come at you pretty fast. We're getting about a 10-minute late start here. I only have 40 minutes with you anyway. So it's going to be a little bit like drinking out of a fire hydrant. I'm just going to throw a lot at you really fast, take in as much as you can. Look for those 1 or 2 pearls, those 1 or 2 nuggets that are meaningful to you. And then be selfish with this time, though. Look for things that you can apply personally, professionally, emotionally, spiritually, relationally. Things that you can go back and use to add value. Well, let's take a look at it. I have a marketing guy. He made me put that picture on there. So I just wore the same thing so you wouldn't be confused. So it's just the same kind of deal. So I've titled this Remarkable Fun, or Fun Begins with Remarkable Customer Service. Really, you guys, a lot of the people in this room, you're not here just doing a job. This has been a calling for you. This is something that is part of your heart. It's part of who you are. And you do it because you love serving people and you love caring for people. And it becomes more fun when we make that the center of who we are. So I want to give you just a little quick outline of what we'll talk about. Everybody wants outrageous service, right? Your customers do internally and externally. But we have to define what are the service behaviors that are going to look like outrageous service. So I want to talk a little bit about service behaviors. But if we're going to have great customer service, we've got to create a culture of service. So what are some of the things that impact the culture? And I'll talk about culture, how to create a culture of care and accountability all at the same time. And then right at the beginning here, I want to talk about what are some of the service principles that if we adopt these principles and we put them into play, we begin to see service go up. And so I have 4 service principles I'll talk about. There's probably 400 we could talk about. I just picked 4 I think will fit this presentation. I'll talk about creating a culture of care and accountability, then I'll wrap up with some service behaviors. Are you ready? Here we go. All right, number 1, make having fun and remarkable service your vision. Right? We spend half our awake lives together. Anybody depressed? Because we do. We spend half our awake life at work. It ought to be a place where we go, where we're growing, developing, where we're having fun, where we feel like we're a part of something significant. So we want to make that our mission right up front. We want to make sure that everything we're doing is pointing towards great internal and external service. Do you guys have a vision statement, a mission statement? Does everybody have it memorized? You hold it close to your heart, I'm sure. Yeah, if it's going to define who we are, it's probably ought to be something we know. And even if you don't have a formal statement, in your department, pull your team members together and get some agreement on how you want to operate internally with each other and externally with your customers. Here's a mission that I know pretty well. It's the Southwest Vision. Just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about when I say a compelling mission that outlines your service. Southwest Airlines vision, dedication to the highest quality customer service delivered with warmth, friendliness, individual pride, company spirit. That's a pretty tight statement about how you want to treat your customers. And if I'm grounded in this, it makes it easy for me to give great service because it's defined for me right there. As a matter of fact, it also makes it very easy when I see other people who aren't giving great service. So I can come alongside them and say, hey, that's not how we do things here. I had a customer service agent tell me one time, I'm not paid to smile. It's not my union contract. Now, Southwest is 86% unionized. A lot of people don't realize that. And I've got this lady saying I'm not paid to smile. But I knew this inside out. And so I said, have you ever seen our mission statement before? And she said, yes. I go, let's review it. Dedication to the highest quality customer service, delivered with warmth, friendliness, individual pride, and company spirit. And I said, in case you forgot what warm and friendly means, on the back of that mission statement, we had defined to be warm and friendly, just 3 things. Smile, use the customer's name, and thank them for flying. You are paid to smile. Please go back to work. I'll be letting your union rep know we had this conversation. You see how different that sounds? Your behavior is inconsistent with who we are. If you guys say that you care for people, then we got to have all of our behaviors line up with that. And we have to make sure that we remind ourselves of that every day. So I'm impressed that you're here. You pulled yourself out of your busy day to say, I'm going to go and get some reminders on what it really means to give great service. That's what we want to be doing. The same is true at home. I have a daughter, she's 6, but when she was younger, she used to, we have a glass top table in our breakfast area. She would crawl into the middle of the table and sit there and eat fruit out of the fruit bowl. And I'd say, Laura Lee, honey, you're a good girl. Good girls don't climb on the furniture. Get off the table. You see the difference? Your behavior is inconsistent with who you are. All right? I don't want to do it like my dad did it. Like, hey, jackass, get off the furniture. My dad was a little more immediate in his feedback, right? I don't want that stuff in her head. Counseling's too expensive, right? It's working, but it's too expensive. I want to make sure I reinforce you're good. We don't have good and bad employees. We have employees who are good who sometimes make bad choices. We don't have good and bad kids. We have kids who are good who sometimes make bad choices. You really don't have good and bad customers or patients, although you guys could probably argue with me on that. But we all are in a state of life, and we're all in this together. So we want to make that. Now, we don't want to stop there. We also want to make a statement about how we want to interact with each other and with the employees. We're committed to provide a stable work environment with equal opportunity for learning and personal growth. We're all in this together. We want to create emotional safety and physical safety, and we want to create an environment where people are learning and growing. The fact that you're here impresses me. You're willing to pull time out for your own development. And why wouldn't you? You work in an emotionally and physically exhausting business. Why wouldn't we pull ourselves out of the playing field, so to speak, and get onto the practice field and just get some reminders about what we're here for? Creativity and innovation are encouraged. There's a bunch of creative, innovative people in this room. Southwest Airlines has a whole bunch of creative, innovative people, and they hire people that like to have fun. They hire people who like to give good service, right? And then we want to free them up to give good service. Do you think we have a little room to have a little more fun in the workplace? Has anybody ever flown Southwest Airlines? Thank you. I still have all my stock. They do some crazy fun things just to connect with their customers. What are some of the things they do? They will sing their in-flight announcements to the tune of Beverly Hillbillies or something. They will have peanut races. They'll see who can get the peanuts to the front of the plane from the back of the plane the fastest, and they give a prize out for whoever wins the peanut races. They will do crazy things just to connect with their customer. I think we need to relax a little more and look for opportunities to lighten up the workforce. I was working with a lady down in Houston, and she's just known for her customer service at Southwest. She gets good letters every week. She's been with them about 25 years. And I was working with her one day, just kind of, shadowing her, just to kind of see what her secrets are. And this big guy comes running down the concourse. He thinks he's late for his flight. He comes up and says, hey, lady, do I have time to go to the bathroom? She looked right at him and said, I don't know. I've never timed you. I don't know about you, that's funny to me. That's funny because it was out of the ordinary. It surprised the guy. He started laughing. It was just a little bit. You could tell he was stressed, and that little bit of comic relief just lowered his tension just a little bit. And then he's boarding the flight. Says, "Sir, by the way, you're a 3-minute bathroom guy." She timed him. I thought that was pretty funny. We want to free ourselves up. All right, we're not robots walking around. We want to free ourselves up to relate well to people, and it works even when things aren't going so well. We had a flight. This pilot landed really hard on the tarmac. He must have been a Navy guy. Slams it down. And everybody on board is frustrated, kind of upset about this landing. They're white knuckles. You know the times we have that turbulent landing. And everyone's disturbed by this landing. The pilot comes on in the calmest voice. He says this, "Ladies and gentlemen, that wasn't your fault. That wasn't my fault. That was the asphalt." I thought that was pretty good. Right? That's pretty good. That's creative. And that's exactly what the plane did. They went from mad to glad just like that. I think we have some room to have a little more fun. Above all, let's treat each other with the same concern, respect, and caring attitude within the organization that we're expected to share externally with every customer. That's a pretty tight statement. No matter what yours says, we can begin to look at the workplace differently and then make that who we are. Let's have fun. We spend half our awake life at work. It ought to be a place where we're enjoying it and where we're having fun. Now, not all of the functions you have to deal with every day are fun, but with each other, we can free ourselves up to have some fun. All right, number 2, develop relational competence. If we're going to have great service, we've got to be able to relate well to people. All right, we've got to make a decision that I'm going to get interested in people again. I'm going to quit trying to change everybody else into a copy of me, and I'm really going to pay attention to who they are. But that is a difficult thing to do. Building productive relationships is tough, and here's why. We are all like icebergs floating around. And what I have sticking out of the tip of my iceberg is very different than what you have sticking out of the tip of your iceberg. And you can't see what's below my waterline, and you're glad. And I can't see what's below your waterline, and I'm glad. Right? Because that's the stuff that's not as comfortable. It's less developed. It's kind of like this. Have you ever worked with somebody, and they just take you there? You have to use concentration and energy just to work around them? Or maybe a patient or somebody? Or maybe they take you there. You have to rotate the other way. You don't know why, but it's a little frustrating. It's a little awkward just trying to relate to that person. It's kind of like being right and left-handed. I have two. I prefer my right. I don't know why. It's just hard-coded into my DNA. That's what I prefer. I don't want to get rid of my left, but I prefer my right. When I write with my right hand, it's like going to the tip of my iceberg. I'm comfortable. I'm relaxed. I'm productive. I'm efficient. I can do great service with this, right? As long as I stick to my strength. But if I switch to my left hand, what happens? It's like going to the bottom of your iceberg. Have you ever worked with somebody that takes you to the bottom of your iceberg? Let me say it differently. Have you ever had an uncontrollable urge just to slap somebody? You don't know why. Just one time, man. Everybody's got a name in their head right now. I don't think it's because the people are being difficult. I think it's because we're all very different. So I have 4 scales of behavior up here just to highlight how different we are. And I want you to see if you recognize yourself. Keep in mind, you're all of these things, just like you're right and left-handed, but you typically have a preference. One's better developed. All right, so there's 4 scales of behavior. I'll exaggerate the behavior just a bit to set the point. Here we go. First scale is everybody in this room has a preference for how you gather information and make decisions. It's a mental processing function that happens dynamically all the time. You're constantly perceiving, you're constantly judging, and it's dynamic. It's happening right now. You can't help it. And you have a distinct preference for how you do that. Some of you in the room prefer gut reaction, intuitive type decision making. You can recognize these people because they walk fast, they talk fast, and they like to snap when they want stuff. And they don't even use real language. When they want something that looks like the real tight body, give it to me. You know those kind of people? They don't even use real language. Give it to me. And they make fast decisions. Want to get married? You'll do. Let's go. Fast gut level decision making. And they just tight body language, gut reaction, but they're working with people who like to analyze things. They in very different body language. They slower rate of speech, lower tone. They have very soft body language. When they gather information, they touch their face. And they make noises like this. Okay. You check with Jason. And then they say what? Let me think about it. I'll get back to you. Well, if you're a gut reaction person, that makes you crazy. What's there to get back to? Just make a decision. You got analysis paralysis. You're killing me here. But the analyzers are looking back going, why are you in such a hurry to be wrong again? This is what I call a flyby. We miss each other, and I've seen departments destroyed, teams destroyed, families destroyed because we don't circle back. We have a flyby and we miss each other. We've got to circle back because it's not because I'm being difficult, it's because we're very different. Next scale is work style. Some of you in the room love structure. You love your routine. You wake up at the same time, you go to work the same way, you park in the same spot. You have a particular routine that you do every day because it's the right routine, and you're a little bit frustrated that everybody else doesn't catch on. The routine person, these people, they love to make their list and check off their list. Gives them great satisfaction. These people, when they go on vacation, have the confirmation numbers typed out. They're very structured, very organized like that. These people have their prom date by homecoming. They just want it nailed down. They don't want to have all this stuff up in the air. But they're working with people who, their whole life is whatever. They go with the flow, man. Why are we getting so worked up? Because we had a change. It's not that big a deal. The whatever people, if there's two ways to get to work, they'll go either way depending on how they feel. They love to wake up early and go and park in their spot just to mess with them. Just to mess with them. Yeah, you know who you are. They like to mess up their routine just to see what happens, you know? These people go on vacation, they don't even know where they're staying. They're fine with that. They don't need a lot of closure on those things. They go in to get a drink of water, end up cleaning out the refrigerator. No concept of making a list and sticking to a list. You can see where the fireworks could happen when we have to work together. Next scale is details. Some of you have a high attention to detail. You want things done right the first time. You have a low tolerance for people who make poor decisions on the front end. They say, why not do it right the first time? You never have time to do it right, but you always have time to do it over. That's their mantra out there. These people can proofread the newspaper and find mistakes. They balance their checkbook to the penny. They have an amazing capacity to filter through details. We think they're being negative, but they're not. They can quickly see what won't work, and they verbalize it. But they're working with people who have the Nike mentality. Let's just do this thing, man. Why are we getting all jammed up, man? Let's just crank this thing out. A good plan today is better than a perfect plan tomorrow. These people don't even keep a checkbook registry. They just call the credit union. Can I write one for 50? All right, thanks. Thank you very much. Crazy, right? They just want to just crank it out. They work great under last-minute pressure. Last scale is where you get your energy. Some of you get energy from other people. You're drawn outward. You're pulled outward to the external world. You love to brainstorm out loud. You're drawn to a commotion. These people need interaction. That's why you see people out there interrupting people, because they need that interaction. External people, these are the people you date that say, hi, I'm going to tell you about me, and then you can tell me about me. They like that focus, right? So you guys have dated that person. But they're working with people who are pulled inward. They feel like that others are intrusive. When they're trying to recharge their batteries, they need to be by themselves. They need to reflect on their own inner experiences. They can be wild and crazy. It just costs them a lot of energy. Right? And we begin to label each other. Oh, they're stuck up. They don't want to hang out with us. Yeah, but all they do is party. It's not the case. It's just we get energy differently. I've been with you for 10 minutes just to show you how easy it would be for us to pick this out. Where do you think I fall? Do you think I'm an analyzer or a gut reaction? Gut reaction. It's easy to see. Right? You ask me the time, I'll build you a watch. I'm a total gut reaction. Am I whatever or routine? I'm whatever. However, I can write with my other hand on this one. I've been a trainer 20 years. I can do agendas, follow schedules, make flights. I can do this other side pretty good. However, those of you who are really routine in this room, you knew I wasn't routine, because I've already seen you looking at your watch. He's jumping around. He doesn't have an agenda. He should have had handouts. What is his problem? He started 10 minutes late. What's going on here? I see the real routine people in the room. You already got wagers. He's not going to finish by 4:50. No way. Whatever it is. Am I just do it or do it right? Yeah, just do it. I'm a crank it out kind of guy. Yeah, last minute pressure. I know I was probably giving Peggy a heart attack. I was up here changing my presentation before I started this morning. She's like, well, you don't have it done? I said, yeah, but I just feel this would be better, because it's that last minute energy that I really enjoy. Internal or external? A total external. Thank you for coming, and thanks for bringing a sense of humor. It's so much better when I get some response from you guys. It gives me energy, so thank you. If I joined your work team tomorrow, what adjustments would you make to bring out the best in me? Some of you are looking like, we would not hire you on our work team. You're a little verbally hyper for us. That's the idea. Not that you would change me into a copy of you, but that you could make adjustments to bring out the best in me. and that I would make adjustments to bring out the best in you. If you go back and do nothing else, just look for the strengths and talents in the people around you and start pulling that out of them. Start looking for ways of really getting to know people for who they are and using those differences as strengths, right? And really thinking about how we approach people. Like for me, example, how would I like a compliment? I'm external. What is a person who's an extrovert, how do they like getting feedback? Public, out loud, in front of everybody. It gives us energy. It feels good. Does an internal person like that? What do they like? Yeah, private conversation, and they really like those notes in the file. I don't know what the deal is with that. Because you put a note in my file, I'll be thinking, how's anybody going to find out about it? No one knows. At least put it on the bulletin board. Maybe someone will walk by it, you know? Right, it's one of those, and we think we're connecting, we think we're complimenting, but we're missing each other because we're not paying attention to who we really are. A routine person, you want to have a meeting with them, what do? Schedule, have an agenda, be on time. Put something on my calendar. Something else I'll be late to, right? I like what? Hey, Jason, you got a minute? Because I'm external, whatever, it gives me energy. Right? If we just make slight adjustments, this works at home too. My wife sells drugs. She's exactly opposite, or pharmaceuticals. She's a drug rep, you guys know. And she's exactly opposite of me. All right, and I think that's the way it's supposed to work. I see the world this way. She sees it this way. I'm drawn to that because if we get together, we've got each other's back. We can complete each other. The problem is, then you have to live together. And that's how I know God has a sense of humor. Watch this. 10 years of fireworks coming up. But she's an analyzer, and I can ask her this one question, and if I ask it and I'm not prepared, I can get completely frustrated. And the question is this: how was your day? She will start telling me every doctor she called on all day long. At 8:30, I went by Dr. Minder's office, his Geodon sales are up, and then I went by Dr. Meck's office, his Zoloft sales are up, and I know I'm supposed to pay attention and non-verbally attend and act interested. I teach this stuff, but I can feel frustration creeping up the back of my neck. And finally, all of a sudden, without notice, this blurts out: did you win the Aspen trip or not? That's all I want to know, right? Because I get frustrated because I want that gut reaction, quick answer. Or I'm whatever, she's routine. She'll say, will you pick up the dry cleaning? And I'm in my mind thinking, I'm going to go by Home Depot tomorrow. Yeah, I'll get it. But to her, it was a contract for that day. We have had war over starch. Right? She'll say stuff like this: I guess you don't think my career is as important as your career. It's like, yes, I do. I'm on your benefit plan. It's very important. Oh. This is hard at home, and I like her, right? Imagine in the workplace where we don't have the affection established, or with customers or with patients. We've got to get interested in people again. We've got to take a step back and realize that we're all very different, and we all have value. We all have giftedness, and we can bring that together and use it in a dynamic way to give great service. But it has to start with us first owning ourselves, and then being willing to look at our team and say, okay, let's get some agreement on our team. And then in your team, get some agreement how you want to impact the other departments around you. Right? And then that'll begin to flow into every part of the organization in terms of great service. You already do a good job. It's just taking that extra step to take it up another notch. Well, let's keep going. Find out what customers really want. And this is a little textbookish, but I'm going to throw it at you anyway. This is what we used at Southwest. It was called the Raider system. We figured that people came to us. They had different levels of expectation based on their exposure to Southwest. Same thing here. And then we felt like if we could hit a home run in every aspect of the Raider system, and the Raider system's this, is reliability, assurance, tangibles, empathy, and how responsive are we when there's a problem. And so we defined what are our moments of truth. And we found that a moment of truth is when someone calls reservations, someone shows up at the ticket counter, the boarding experience, the gate lounge experience, the in-flight experience, and did their bag show up on the other end. He said, if we can hit a home run in those moments of truth in every aspect here, we're going to have great service. And year after year after year, we saw customer satisfaction numbers climb, and we were ranked number one in all the major airlines for all those years. I haven't followed it in the last few years how they're doing, but it works because we want to manage the expectation, manage the perceptions that are out there so that the service quality is up here. So are we doing that? Here's a few definitions around those if you want to look at them. Do we dependably provide what we promise? Do we deliver on promises? Do we convey trust, confidence, and confidence? How do we look? The way you and the facilities and how things look, they make an impression on your service. And then this one, probably the biggest one of all, especially in your industry, do I really feel like you care? Do I get a warm feeling? Do I really feel like you understand where I am? And then lastly, how quickly are you going to turn around that problem when I need something? Are you going to meet that need? So here's the question for you. How do we add value? Now, value to me is what something costs and some distinction that you attach to it. All right, for example, if I gave you the distinction of quality, what brand pops into your mind? Lexus, yeah, is that the least expensive car? No, but people will buy it because that is a distinction of quality, a distinction of luxury. If I gave you the distinction of convenience, what brand pops into your mind? Walmart? Okay, Walmart, yeah, I mean, they've got it figured out. The lowest price, you can get anything there 24/7. For 365 days a year, they've got it figured out. If I gave you the distinction of customer service, what brand pops into your mind? Thank you for saying that. I'm so glad you said. Sometimes I've just pulled it out of the groups. That's exactly what I want you to say, especially your department. I want to be anywhere in the community. I want to say, who gives great service? And I want them to say, my mom was sick and she was in the university hospital and they cared for her so well. That's what I want. I want you guys to be able to have that kind of reputation out there. And so if that's the kind of distinction that you want to attach to your service, or if customer service is the distinction you want to attach to your department, here's the million-dollar question. If you were king or queen for a day, what's the one thing you would change if you were going to distinguish yourself as a quality service provider, quality caregiver? Yeah, I heard somebody whisper it. It's a trick question. Because I know we got a lot of things, but really the only thing you control is you. We got to be willing to leave this room, go back and say, you know what, I can make a difference. I can do a little bit better. You know what, I'm going to drop some of this stuff that's been distracting me, and I'm going to stay focused on the customer. All right? Lastly, and it leads right into this, just our fourth service principle, be a positive team player. We spend half our awake life together. Why wouldn't we want to make it better? All right? We want to be a positive team player. We want to create positive emotions in the people around us. It looks like this. This comes right out of Gallup research. There's two types of tension you deal with every day. There's task tension and people tension. And you have tasks to get done and people you have to work with to get the task done. Here's what Gallup found in the research. If you have high people tension, you're not going to be as focused on task. And they found that on average, people are at about 50% capacity when they have high people tension. What creates high people tension in the workplace? Personality problems, mismanaged relationships, compromise, gossip, negativity. I can go on, right? All those things, stress begins to rise, right? And our focus on the job and on the customer service goes down, right? And Gallup found if we can lower people tension, we can get 95% of our energy on task. But we've got to look at really what's causing the tension, and we've got to be honest with ourselves. Right? And you have to ask yourself, am I part of the problem? Is there some things I'm bringing to work that maybe I need to reevaluate? If we really want to give great service, we've got to stay focused on it. We've got to get 95% of our energy on giving that great service. To do that, we've got to manage the people stress around us. We want to use our influence. Every day, you guys are influencing each other. You have two ways you can use your influence. What are those two ways? It's the epic struggle, good and evil. Every day, you're either impacting people around you in a positive way or a negative way. There's no in between. All right? Same thing with customers or patients. It's either good or bad. And there's three directions you can influence people. What are those three directions? You can influence your boss, a coworker, or another employee. All right? How are you using your leadership influence? The same is true at home. If I keep stress low in my home, tension low, guess what? The whole family works better. But if I get home and I bring a lot of strife and bitterness and anger and frustration home, what happens? Family doesn't work so well. And it's because of my influence. It's negative. Right? We all have to own that. So let me just ask you the question. Let's just pretend like this bell curve is going to represent all the behaviors that are in this room, all the behaviors that are done all day long today. And so statistically, I just rounded them off. But, Gallup found that about 20% of the workforce is actively disengaged. It's about 19% really. And about 60% are just disengaged. They're actively disengaged. They're out there negative, trying to sabotage. These folks are just in there trading hours for dollars, right? Only about, and the number was actually 26%, but about a quarter of employees are actively engaged, meaning they're doing their best every day. The thing is that you could fall in different categories depending on the day. This is not people, these are behaviors. You don't have good and bad employees, you have employees who do good and bad behavior. So we want to try to move behavior this direction, right? How do we do that? How do we get 95% of our energy up here? Let me ask you this, what are those behaviors? What are the best of the best behaviors? If everybody was doing these behaviors, we'd all have less to do, right? What are those behaviors? On time, good attitude, good uniform, they follow policy, procedure, they're positive, they're friendly. They also do little things like remember your birthday, or they ask about your sick parent, or they'll pick up a shift so you can go to your son's baseball game, right? That's what those folks do. Let's talk about the bottom 20%. What are those behaviors? Oh yeah, late, whine, complain, sabotage, steal, right? And that's all before noon. Which group do you think gets most of the emotional attention in the workplace? Guys, I go into hundreds of companies. I ask this same question. 90% of the people say, or 100% of the people say they spend 90% of their emotional energy on the negative part of the business. Now, that is completely illogical. Now, let me give you a little survey. New York Times did a survey. Number one reason people work in America, guess what it was? Money was number 4. Benefits was number 2. The nature of the, number 2. The benefit, that was a math major. Benefits was number 3. The nature of the work was number 2. Like me, I am a trainer. I cannot not train. You put me in an accounting job, I'll jump off a bridge. You give me a training job, I grow exponentially. My wife doesn't like it. She's like, don't you train me. It's like, I can't help it. That's how you load the dishwasher, just like that. I tell people I run things in my house. I run the dishwasher, run the vacuum. I fold the towels, because if you fold them right, you can get them in there. And anyway, yeah. Number one reason people work in America is being recognized as being significant or being important. People want recognition. They want to be recognized. If 90% of the emotional recognition is going to that group, what are we training people to do if they want attention? You want to radically change the workplace? I would challenge you. There's enough people in this room that you could change the whole hospital. Go back and do nothing but focus on positives. Quit commenting about negative junk. Drop the drama and just focus on the behaviors that you want repeated. What gets recognized gets repeated. What gets rewarded gets repeated. It works at home too. The more I reward and recognize my kids for doing the behavior that I want repeated, the more they do that behavior. If I let them get me into a pattern where they're doing these behaviors and they get my attention, guess what they're going to keep doing to get my attention? If I give my daughter a popsicle for throwing a fit, what have I just trained her to do? Throw a fit. I never put people on airplanes for yelling at me at the airport. Because if I did, I just trained them to yell at me and every other manager. There would have to be a professional tone achieved before we're going to move forward. All right? And so we want to start moving this way. Why spend all that emotional energy there anyway? They keep you up at night. You're probably praying, Lord, let a meteor hit them. You just want them off the face of the earth. Now, the good thing about this is I don't know any of you guys. I don't know where you fall here, but you do. Right? That's why I like to live in Dallas and train in Augusta. Blow in, blow up, blow out, right? But you have to evaluate that. The good news is no matter where we are today, we can move it today. We don't have to stay there. We don't have to stay in a negative pattern. Think about it. It's illogical. If you were going to go to a party tonight, who do you want to be around at the party? This group. They're positive, fun, energetic. They know your name. They're telling funny stories. Nobody's going to go into the party and do this. Hey, an angry guy, maybe he'll explode. You're not going to do that. Wow, she looks depressed. Sit with us, ruin our night. Come on over. You don't spend your social time around angry, depressed people. But I watch people spend half their awake life at work around angry, depressed people, never do anything about it. Or worse, they'll spend half their awake life being an angry, depressed person. Now let me qualify this. Guys, we all go through life. And we all have bad times and we all have good times. As a matter of fact, if we all had 30 minutes to stand up here and tell each other our problems, after hearing everybody else's, you'd want to keep your own. You don't want the junk I got. I don't want the junk you got. So I would encourage you to think about the people around you. Sometimes that negative behavior, or that bottom 20%, sometimes it's a flare gun, and they're shooting it up saying, I'm hurting. And so let's come alongside each other and say, hey, this isn't like you. Is there anything going on? I had somebody do that for me when I was in Los Angeles. I got really task-focused. I forgot that we were about people. And I had a supervisor come to me, and she said, Jason, when you first got here, you were a lot of fun to work with. She goes, I don't know what happened, but if I can help, let me know. It's a pretty good way to talk to your boss, isn't it? right? And she got my attention. It doesn't have to be all this struggle. We can help each other. But we've got to be willing to evaluate this and say, I want to move this direction. All right, thanks for listening. Well, if we start to do these, and there's tons of other principles we could talk about, but we start to do these, we start to see a culture form, a service culture. And Edgar Schein said if you're going to impact culture, you're going to do it in 3 different ways. It's the artifacts, the visible organizational structures. Like at Southwest wanted to be known as being a fun company. They wanted to have a fun culture. You know what their uniforms are called? Funwear. When you order them from Cintas, you get the Funwear polo, the Funwear short, the Funwear sneakers. It's a visible reminder that we want to have a fun company. They want to be known as being a family company and have work-life balance. And they have a hallway in their headquarters, floor to ceiling, nothing but pictures of employees' families. I've been gone 10 years. Mine are still up there. I'm still part of the family, right? And it's a reminder that that's really what's important, right? We work to live, not live to work. And then we want to be bold about our strategies, our goals, and our philosophies. We want to put it out there that we want to give the best service, and we want our customers to hold us accountable for that. So I love telling people you're going to have a great experience with this, because it puts me on notice that I better show up and deliver. It doesn't matter how I feel. Great service is not a feeling; it's a choice. I don't always feel like doing 5 of these in a day, but it's not a choice. I mean, it's not a feeling; it's a choice. You deserve my best work, right? And your patients deserve your best work. Right? And the scary part of all of this is managing the underlying perception. What's really going on? If I pulled any one of you guys out and said, hey, what's really happening? That's reality. We can put everything on the wall that we want, but if the implied value is that we don't believe in service, it's not going to happen. So we really have to start managing the thoughts, feelings, and beliefs. So if you want a culture of care, this is a little tricky because business is organized like this, but we can't think about the business like that. Everyone in this room is critical to the service delivery. So it's the frontline employee that's the most important part of the business. So as you get promoted down, your job is much more of a support mechanism, even down to the CEO and the board of directors. Their job is to support the front line so that we give the best care possible, right? Because who really is the most important part of the business? This is a sharp group. I knew you'd say that. Yeah, it's your patients, your customers, the families, the people that you work with. That's who we want to stay focused on. You can plug in University Hospital there if you want. University Hospital is a customer service company that happens to be in the healthcare industry. And the level of service you give externally is only going to be as good as the level you give internally. We can't destroy each other internally and expect we're going to give great service externally. It's not going to happen. It's a culture of care and a culture of accountability. Now, trainers are always looking for ways of expressing ideas in forms of models, so here's my attempt at accountability. Who has the most responsibility for results at the hospital? Meaning, if the hospital doesn't perform, it starts to lose money or starts to go over budget or whatever, who's going to get the call? CEO, they're going to get a call from the board pretty quick. If a department doesn't perform, who's going to get a call? The department head. That's just the way business is set up. Who has the most power and influence? They control budgets. They control if we're going to do mergers or acquisitions. Same person, executive group, right? Guided by the board. Who has the least? Same person, front line. Now, there's nothing wrong with organizing a business like that, but it's dangerous because there's 2 different ways we can think about the business. What happens if people start to think they have no responsibility, they have no power and influence? What mentality creeps in? I don't care, it's not my job, I'm just here trading hours for dollars, I'm going to do as minimum as possible. They quit, but they stay. You ever see somebody quit and stay? Yeah. It's this victim mentality. It's that bottom 20%. It's that woe is me. It is debilitating. It begins to look like this. That's a little risky, but I put it in there anyway. I'll make a promise to you. If you will take more responsibility and you will take full ownership in your current reality, I'm talking about full ownership, I promise you'll get more power and influence, and you're going to have and experience more freedom. The more ownership you take in your current reality, the more power you're going to build and the more freedom you're going to feel. I just think it's true. That kept me up one night thinking about it. So just see how it rests with you tonight. But every time I step up and I own my current reality, I always feel more free. Every time I blame, I always feel like I lose power. Every time you step up, you gain power. It's true at home too. It really is. If I say to my wife, look at your daughter throwing a fit, acting just like you. If I say that, have I taken ownership in that situation? No. Right? I can't do that. That'll get you hurt. What I have to say is this, Laura Lee, honey, I don't know what I've said or done that's caused this fit, but it's going to stop today. How do you ask nice for a popsicle? Because that's usually what it is, something drastic like that. Any guy can be a parent. It takes this to be a father. Any guy can say they care for customers or care for patients, but it takes this if you're really going to give care. We got to own every customer every day. We can't say it's somebody else's job or it's somebody else's department or somebody. We got to take ownership. And the more ownership you're going to take, the more power you're going to build with the people around you, with the customers, with your boss. I just think it's true. It's accountability. I think we need more of it. Our culture is, blaming everybody else for their current reality. And I think we all need to step up and own it. All right. Well, let's get to this last part where we're really looking at service behaviors. Eisenhower said it's the art of getting someone else to do something you want done because they want to do it. And it really looks like this. I behave a certain way. You get a perception of that. You run it through the value system. Decide how you're going to behave back to me. I get a perception. Run it through my value system. If I work with you and I'm not doing the service behaviors that we've agreed to, what do you have to change in this model if you're going to influence me? The only thing you can control is your behavior. How often should you change your behavior until you get me to align with the service principles that we've agreed to? As many times as possible, up to and including termination. Even if you're a coworker, you can influence somebody. What's funny, at Southwest, we had this one agent, senior employee. She was at the top of the pay grade. She had the best schedule because they bid by seniority. And this person was negative every day. The uniforms were no good, the manager's no good, the schedule's no good, everything was wrong for this employee. And I had just gotten to the airport, and I said, I'm going to have to say something because she's just bringing everyone down. And finally, a group of employees got together. They bought a Sunday paper, and they highlighted a bunch of jobs in the paper. Then they put a note on top of the paper, and they put it at her work position. And it said, we will work your position if you will just go interview. We are tired of your toxic attitude. Woo! Turns out this lady was really struggling. She needed some support and some help. She finally opened up and got a bunch of people around her to love all over. And she just didn't know how to get help. She was just struggling. But that happens sometimes, but we got to be willing to engage each other and say it's not okay to bring that negative attitude to work every day. So we got to influence each other. Now, if behavior is so important and influence is so critical to great service, it'd probably be a good idea if we knew what behaviors influence people the most. Would you think? So I found some research for you. Imagine that. Jane Elsa wrote a book called The 4-Minute Sell. She was studying what people notice in order of importance when they first see you. And it has a huge impact on the service exchange, on the influence that you have with the people around you. And here are the first 3. Skin color, gender, and age. You can't control those. That's just what it is. And there's nothing wrong with noticing that unless you have some bias attached to one of them. And that's a different class for a different day. And you can't control it. I can't control my skin color. I can get in the sun and my complexion can change, but for the most part, I can't control that. Can't control my gender. Some people are trying. And it's just a fact that we all age, right? We all age. I don't know how it happened, but there's about 40 pounds of me my wife's not legally married to. It just happened, And, hair turns gray or it turns loose. We all age, right? But look at the next 6. If we want to have wow service, we got to wake these things up. We got to bring our best self to work. We got to look sharp. We got to look like we care. And we've got to put on a pleasant expression and let people know that they're important to us. And that's our coworkers as well. We can't walk around like we've been weaned on a pickle. We got to put a positive expression. We've got to have sincere eye contact. We got to be willing to attend to people. And I'm not talking about just the person who's hurting there, the person you're giving care to. It's the people around you that you see every day. Body movement. How do I carry myself around? Do I walk tall and do I have pride in what I do? Or am I slumping around all day in a depressed form? And then personal space. And then finally, and especially in your business, I would think that touch is critical. This is what Jane Elsa found. If you really want to maximize your service experience, they have to experience all of these things in concert together. It's not just words. Right? It's not just words. We've got to wake these things up. And you naturally do it in a new relationship, don't you? You remember back when you were dating, you want to look right, smell right, act right. You know, you get on your best stuff, you wash the car, and then when you're together, you're like non-verbally attending to each other. Right? Then you let like 10 years go by, what happens? What? Get in the car, right? We quit doing the little things. We wonder why the spice goes away. The same is true with customer service. We've got to rejuvenate that every day. We've got to recreate that energy every day, that connection with the customer, that connection with your coworker, that connection with your boss. We've got to re-engineer that every day. It's not something that is going to just happen. And you you work in an emotionally and psychologically exhausting business. And so we need to rejuvenate ourselves. We need days like today to pull ourselves out of the workplace and rejuvenate and to laugh a little bit and to remind each other that we're all in this together. And so let's do that for each other. Here's another piece of research. This was done at USC on how people send and receive emotional messages. They said you had 3 tools, and those 3 tools are, the last one's touch. I forgot to put touch up there. That's an important one for you guys. And that was a big deal at Southwest too, because it was at Southwest, everybody hugs, and it's just a touchy-feely company. We hug so much, they had to have a hug policy. You know what the policy was? You can hug, but don't linger. That's a pretty good policy. That'll keep you out of HR right there. All right? 3 tools you have for communicating emotional messages. This is my last slide, so we're almost done. Gestures, tone, and words. Which has the biggest impact on the message you send and receive every day? If you look at Jane Elsa's research, I like when research backs itself up, this 55% of your communication has to do with what you physically look like. It has little to do with words. 38% is your tone of voice. Only 7% of your words comprise the message. And then we wonder why people don't feel cared for. It's because we're giving lip service, but we're not showing it. All right? We're going to have to, 7, there it is. If I walk in tonight, I've been gone all this week, and if I walk in tonight and I say this to my wife, boy, I really missed you. My words said, I really missed you. But my gestures and tone said, I had a great time, Broad Street, right? That gets you hurt. That gets you hurt right there. This got to be consistent. I watched the equivalent of that going on all day long in the workplace. People plowing through people, thinking that they're saying all the right things, but they're destroying people, leaving them in their wake. We've got to wake these things up. Take tone, for example. If you take the phrase, I did not steal your lunch, and you put emphasis on different parts of that phrase, it totally changes the meaning. Take it on, I did not steal your lunch. What's that mean? Somebody else did. Put it on did not. I did not steal your lunch. You're accusing me, I'm denying it. I did not steal your lunch. I just tried the pudding, right? I just sampled it. I did not steal your lunch. I got somebody else's, right? And I did not steal your lunch. But I'm enjoying the watch or whatever else I took. We blow through communication. We wonder why people aren't doing what we asked them to do or what we agreed to do because they heard something totally different. What is heard is always more important than what is said. And what is heard has a lot to do with gestures and tone. I'll give you a real strong example for gestures. There's something we do as a nation that defines us as a country. It's something we fight for across the world. What is it? Freedom, and we symbolize that because we can vote. Something happened in 1960 that radically changed our political process. Anybody remember what it was? It was the first presidential debate that was televised. There was a radio debate. Nixon was way ahead after the radio debate. Right? It was Nixon and JFK. But what did Nixon do on camera? He didn't feel well. He started to sweat. He would not wear the stage makeup. He did not get his hair fixed. He did not reshave. He had a 5 o'clock shadow working. He loosened his tie, and he hunkered down behind that podium, and his eyes were going back and forth. He looked horrible, and he got a nickname. What was it? Tricky Dicky. He looked terrible. He looked tricky. He was, right? We already knew his politics sounded better for the nation. He was way ahead in the polls after the radio debate. What did JFK do? Oh, he knew Hollywood, didn't he? Yeah, he buttoned up that blue Armani. He had perfect makeup, perfect hair. He stood back from the podium. He stood up tall. He had big flowing gestures. If you look at the footage of that, he had a 3rd stage lamp put on him. He lit up. And America said, oh, we want that guy. We want Camelot. And our political process hasn't been the same since. It's radically changed. Because you know you can't trust the words, right? You just can't. So everyone's posturing with all this other stuff to try to convince us. Right? I got to see a modern president speak live. I saw Bill Clinton speak at the National Prayer Breakfast And it was right in the middle of his scandal with Monica Lewinsky. So I'm about 30 yards away, and that's what I was trying to get my mind around. How do you speak to 4,600 delegates from around the world at a prayer breakfast with a sex scandal hanging over? I couldn't get my brain around that. I don't know if I could have the courage to do it. But this guy comes out, everyone does the ovation, President of the United States, everyone sits down. He doesn't say a word. He stands there. And he just has this amazing presence. And then everyone sits, it's dead silent, and he starts this long pan across 4,600 people. He doesn't say a word. And he kind of nods his head a couple times. He does that little head nod thing. And he goes all the way across. Then he looks down in his portfolio. He shuts it. He steps around the podium just like he's going to speak from the heart. And I'm thinking, oh, he is good. Because he had everybody in that room on the edge of their chair without saying a word. Still to this day is one of the best live speakers I've ever seen. He is. He's amazing command of this right here. I would have loved to have seen some of the great speeches of all time, like Dr. King, I Have a Dream, or Bobby Kennedy when Dr. King was shot. Man, how cool would that be to be? It's sad, but what a powerful speech that was. But still to this day, I got Clinton. And still one of the best I've ever seen. And you think about how he used this formula right here to manipulate the whole country. During the middle of that scandal, he got on camera, he looked us right in the eye through that TV set, and he said what? He put his little scepter out there, and he said, I didn't do it. He looked us right in the eye. A couple months later, he comes back, what's he say? I kind of did it. Depends on what your definition is of this, that, and the other, and all that. And I was like, oh. This guy gets impeached. They don't even make him leave the White House, right? Now, he did some great things as president. 71% of Americans had an approval rating for him after all that was over, right? My point is this. If he can get out of that mess using this, we ought to be able to give better service. Don't you think? We ought to be able to connect with our boss and our coworkers, right? And just non-verbally attend to them. Listen, let me wrap this up because we got to go. You guys have been great. How many would like to leave and just have a little more enthusiasm and be able to spread that to the people around you, and maybe a little more inspiration and share that with the people around you? Most people are going to say yes to that. You know the root of enthusiasm? You guys may have heard this before. It's a Greek word. It's in theos, same word we get theology. It literally means God within. It's a belief in you that when people experience it, it lifts them up. So do you believe in service so much that when people are around you, they want to give better service? Do you believe in people so much that people are drawn to you? Do you believe in relationships and community? If we do, let's share that. Let's let that energy go. Let's be a blessing to the people around us. That's like inspiration. That's what that is. You know, to inspire, you know what that is? It's a Latin word to breathe. When you breathe, you inspire. When you do not breathe, you expire. That's right. It makes me think of a client that I've worked with for a long time now, and it's Hawaiian Airlines. Every time I go to Hawaii, they greet me in a special way. What do they say? They say aloha. And they don't just say aloha, they also will kiss you on the cheek, or they'll touch cheeks. And I asked a friend of mine over there, Kina Sai, she's an expert in the Hawaiian language. And I said, Kina, what's the deal with aloha? She said, well, ancient islanders, when they would row up on a friendly visit, these big warriors, the Samoans, Tahitians, Tongans, the Hawaiians, they would extend arms with palms up. That was a sign that says, look, I'm unarmed, it's a friendly visit. Just like a handshake is, look, I don't have a gun. That's all it is. That's where it comes from. And these big warriors would grab arms and they would say, alo. A-L-O in Hawaiian means face. They would pull each other face to face, and then they would share ha. And ha is an onomatopoeia. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a breath. It's an inspiration. They believed if you shared breath, you shared spirit. Isn't that beautiful? It literally means I welcome you with a blessing. I welcome you with my spirit. All right? They say aloha when you leave. There's no formal word for goodbye. But they say aloha. I send you away with a blessing. I send you away with my spirit. The word Hawaii is the same root word. Ha-wai. Wai in Hawaiian means water. Hawaii is a place in water that renews your spirit. It's a place in water that brings life. If you guys do nothing leaving here today, just go back and share some ha. And it's no accident, laughter's ha-ha. Right? Now, I made that up, but I think it fits. Let's laugh more, and let's love more, and let's bless each other more. You guys have been a blessing for me today. Thank you so much. I wish you a fond aloha. Thanks.